Back now to our discussion on the security industry. Earlier, I spoke to the Private Security Industry Regulatory Authority, that's CIRA, about one company that had been fined and suspended for operating without a license. The suspension of Reaction Unit South Africa will be lifted tomorrow morning. Rusa was fined 20 million rand. Let's chat now to Rusa's Prem Balram. He's in our Durban studio for us. Prem, good evening and thanks for your time. You have pleaded guilty to all the charges and accepted the fine that CIRA has imposed. Can you give us a quick idea as to what exactly you pleaded guilty to?
Well, members of Reaction Unit South Africa had received complaints initially, and we attended to these complaints. Arrested suspect, one in particular was a rape suspect that had raped his child 900 times over a period of 5 years. This was a 5-year-old child. So we were a bit heavy-handed with dealing with the suspect who escaped from police custody. He was arrested twice by members of Reaction in South Africa, and it's alleged that we had assaulted him during his arrest. So we pleaded guilty to those charges that CIRA put forward to avoid a lengthy battle with CIRA, the governing body.
Okay, so you're talking about that one case. Just looking at other reports of what it was, Prem, it also says that Rusa has publicly sort of put on social media your high-profile arrest, that what you have done has provoked some unlawful behavior, publishing the identities of witnesses and also making detailed reference to evidence in certain cases, endangering the lives of witnesses, subjecting them to possible intimidation and opening up the possibility of the destruction of evidence. So you've pleaded guilty to all of that as well?
We pleaded guilty to all of that, and we ended a discussion with CIRA this week in Pretoria, and we informed them that we would be compliant with the POPI Act, and in going forward we would be blocking out faces of witnesses and victims of crime and suspects, and would be compliant. Our admin will receive training, and yes, we have pleaded guilty to those charges.
I mean, I have to ask though, how did you let that happen? I mean, why would you do that? Why would you post those things? Why would you post the identities of witnesses? Surely you would have known that you were jeopardizing certain cases.
Listen, there was no cases that were jeopardized. We use social media.
Or you could have jeopardized.
To get the message out to the. Yeah, we're not aware of any cases that was jeopardized. In fact, social media has assisted in the arrest of high-profile suspects who were on the run, including the rape suspect that raped his stepchild 900 times. So it had assisted us. These were allegations made all by suspects. We did apologize to CIRA. This week in Pretoria. However, we still adamant that social media had helped us in arresting this suspect twice. We pleaded guilty so we could just put this behind us and move forward. But we will be compliant with the POPI Act in future, and we ensure that our admin is trained accordingly.
Okay, so you will not be doing that kind of thing anymore. But they also say that you had been operating while you had been suspended because of those complaints as well. Now, how do you explain that?
Well, we were not operating as Reaction Unit South Africa. We had a sister company called Reaction Unit International that took over the staff and the clients from Reaction Unit South Africa. We had explained that the seeding of the contracts was done via our attorneys, and it was done with all the clients, and it was done above board. So CIRA was explained that we were operating above board. However, with our suspension being lifted, we will now we now will be trading as Reaction Unit South Africa again. But Reaction Unit International is a company that's been registered with CIRA and is operating above board currently. Yes,
all right. Well, Prem, this story has come to the fore because we are talking about security. We are talking about, we had crime stats not too long ago. We're talking about the victims of crime stats that came out today and how safe people are feeling and whether they report these things. So obviously, I mean, people value the work that you as Rusa do. We see that you are responsible for many high-profile arrests as well, and I'm sure that the public really appreciates that. But you have to wonder, and you say that you are going to be retraining. So we have to wonder about your processes of training and recruiting and putting people in these very important positions when they have other people's lives in their hands.
Yes, firstly, our governing body and the South African police have to acknowledge that we live in a very violent country. We live in a crime capital, of the world, and South Africa, we see violent crime on an hourly basis. Now, our reaction officers have been seeing brutal crimes, daily, and they obviously need counseling. We now have discussed that with CIRA, that when going forward, we will be giving them, counseling. They see far too many crime scenes that have affected them, and I think that has led to them dealing with crime and suspect heavy-handedly. We are going forward. We will be, counseling them, and obviously in future we ensure that suspects are not handled as we've been handling them in the past.
Okay, so lessons have been learned on your side.
Definitely, lessons have been learned. We will be complying with CIRA. The governing body has welcomed us to their offices in Pretoria, where we have discussed this in a boardroom. And I apologize to them. In future, the code of conduct will be adhered to strictly. Members of Reaction South Africa who do not, comply with the code of conduct will be disciplined, suspended, and probably dismissed in a hearing.
Okay, so I just want to ask you very quickly, Prem, you mentioned that your members were responsible for arresting certain suspects. Is that your mandate? Are you allowed to arrest suspects in any, when you attend?
Yes, we are allowed. Yes, the private security industry allows us to arrest suspect who's about to commit a crime or just have committed a crime. So reaction officers, respond quickly to crimes in progress and then arrest the suspect. There's no investigation involved in the arrest of these suspects.
Okay, but you are required to call in the police after you've detained them.
Yeah. Immediately after we apprehend them, we call in the South African police and hand them over.
Okay, all right. Well, thanks very much for your time. Reaction Unit South Africa's Prem Balram.